Hello children, welcome to today's English class. Hope you all are safe, healthy and happy at home. Children, till now we have learnt few lessons from your English prose Beehive and also 2 lessons from your supplementary reader Moments, and we have also learnt few poems. And you had also learnt the different writing parts and the different writing type questions in your syllabus. And of course, you had learnt tense in detail, and I am sure you can answer questions related to tenses very well. Today, once again I am going to take you back to your prose text Beehive, and we are going to read a very interesting chapter. But before we actually move on to the chapter, I would like to discuss something with you. Okay? Let me first tell you that this year you have 40 marks for your literature part. Okay? Earlier it used to be 30 marks, but this year you have 10 more marks added to your literature part. So, you need to be very careful and read your prose text and supplementary text in detail. You have to do lot of reading, you have to read the lessons, poems and stories again and again, and try to look at the dictionary for word meanings, and also try to frame small questions and write down their answers in your notebook. Because reading of the text is very important for you to answer the questions related to the literature part, and you can score good marks as you have 40 marks this year. Now, coming back to the lesson which we are going to read today, children, I would like to discuss a word with you. What is this particular word? Genius. Let us first try to understand the meaning of the word genius. It could be something maybe unusual ability, or you can say brilliant mental ability, or it could be a person who has got creative power, creative or innovative power. Okay? Now, you might wonder why I have written this particular word on the board, and why am I discussing this word with you. Children, the moment you hear this word genius, what comes to your mind? You might have many people who were genius in your mind. For example, Isaac Newton, Srinivas Ramanujam. Okay, if we consider current genius people, it could be Sundar Pichai, it could be Shakuntala Devi, who is also known as human computer. So, there are so many people in our mind who were genius in the past and who were known for being genius. And we do have many genius people in the world who are doing wonders, who are creative, who are innovative. But children, when this word genius comes to our mind, what do we think? We think that these people are different from us. You know, genius people are born with all those qualities, innovative qualities and talents. And so, that is their inborn talent. By birth, they have been genius. Okay, that is why they could, do innovative and creative work, which have made them genius. I won't agree with you here. Children, we have all been created with beautiful talents and attributes. The only thing is we need to nurture our talents in a proper way. We need to first realize the talents we have. Okay? We have examples in the past where ordinary people have done extraordinary thing. So, that is what the chapter today we are going to read is about. A truly beautiful mind. So, we are going to learn something about the great scientist, in fact physicist and the Nobel Prize winner Albert Einstein. You all are very familiar with this figure. And so, he was a genius, and you might think he had all the qualities of being genius right from childhood, or he was born with all these qualities and that is why he became a genius. Not at all. So, let us read the chapter and try to understand about this great personality and whether he possessed all these qualities right from childhood. What were the challenges he faced? He too had challenges in his life. And what were the opinion of his mother and teachers about him? Okay. So, once we read the lesson, we will come to the conclusion that genius people are also from a very simple background. Albert Einstein was also from a very humble background. He was the son of a salesman. Believe me children, from a very humble family and a humble background. And he too had challenges in his life. But still, how could he become a genius? And finally, he was the recipient of Nobel Prize and also so many awards. So, let us move to the lesson. Children, today we are going to read 3 pages of your textbook. So, if you have your textbook, you can please open your textbook, this particular chapter, the truly beautiful mind, and you can look at the book while we are reading, and you can also look at the screen. But you need to be very careful while you are listening to me. Children, before we move on actually to the lesson, I would request you to read, after we finish reading this particular part, the before you read section also, which talks about Albert Einstein's work, which really made him a genius. He had done great work in science, in physics and in maths and philosophy. You can even request your science teacher to tell you more about the theories which he had discovered, especially the theory of relativity. You can discuss in your science class about this with the help of your science teacher, about the discoveries of Albert Einstein. So, it will help you to understand the lesson in a better manner. Now, let us move on to the lesson. A truly beautiful mind. Children, you can see the picture of Einstein here on the screen. This picture is when he had become old. Okay. We will be looking at more pictures when he was young and also pictures of his childhood as we read the lesson. Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm without any indication that he was destined for greatness. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. To her, his head seemed much too large. Here, destined means fate. We say, na, it's my destiny, it's in my destiny. A predetermined set of events that has to happen in the future. We say it's in our destiny, so it is going to happen, we cannot avoid it. Okay, so destined. Freak means it's a word which is used disapprovingly to talk about a person who is unusual and doesn't behave, look or think like others. Okay? Who is not normal like other people, he is different, he is abnormal. Okay? His behavior, his appearance or maybe his activities are different from normal people or other people. So, here Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm. And without any indication, that means when he was born, nobody knew that he is going to be a great genius. There were no signs, okay, that he was destined for greatness. That what was there in his destiny, no one knew, or there were no signs. On the contrary, what were the thoughts of his mother about Albert? She thought he was a freak. Freak means he was not normal, he was different from other children, and to her his head seemed too large. At the age of 2.5, Einstein still was not talking. When he finally did learn to speak, he uttered everything twice. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him brother boring. Children, you can see a picture of cute little Einstein. Uttered means spoke. So, why his mother thought that he was different from other children? Because even when he was 2.5 years old, he was not able to talk. Normally children start speaking by 1.5 or 2 years, right. So, even when he was 2.5 years old, he was not able to speak. So, finally when he started speaking also, he uttered every word twice. Okay. So, Einstein did not know what to do with other children, because his playmates, they called him brother boring, okay, because he repeated everything twice, he was not normal like them, he was different. So, they all called him brother boring. So, this is how his playmates behaved with him. Okay. So, the youngster played by himself. That means he played all alone, because his playmates did not play with him. They called him boring, and he especially loved mechanical toys. You know, he loved, as many of you might have done in your childhood, he liked to play with mechanical toys, because he was going to become a great scientist in future. Looking at his newborn sister, you can see in the picture Einstein with his sister Maja. He is said to have said, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" So, for him even human beings were like mechanical toys, you know. So, when his sister was born, he asked, "Where are her wheels?" Okay. So, those were his thoughts when he was too young. A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession would not matter, because he will never make a success at anything. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6, because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining this skill throughout his life. So, we just read what was Einstein's mother's opinion about him. She thought him to be abnormal, as his head was big, and she thought you know, he could not speak properly. Okay, now his headmaster also thought that whatever profession he chose, that would not matter, because he is never going to be successful in his life. Okay. So, that was the opinion of the headmaster, that he is not going to be you know, successful in his life. So, Einstein began to play the violin at the age of 6, because his mother wanted him to learn the violin. Children, here Einstein's mother was very encouraging. She used to encourage him to do lot of things, and later he became a gifted amateur violinist. Amateur here means doing something for personal enjoyment rather than as a profession, something which is your hobby and you do it as a pastime, not to become a professional violinist. Okay, and he played violin throughout his life also later. But Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. he went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old, and scored good marks in almost every subject. Einstein hated the school's regimentation and often clashed with his teachers. At the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled there that he left the school for good. Pupil here means student. Regimentation means order or discipline to an extreme, very strict discipline. Stifled means unable to breathe, to feel suffocated, not very comfortable. Okay? Left the school for good means left the school for ever. Now, we had looked at the opinion of his mother and his headmaster about him. But this paragraph says that Albert Einstein was a good student, he was not bad, and he went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old, and he scored good marks in almost all subjects. Therefore, Einstein hated the school's strict discipline and the strict rules and regulation, and he did not agree with his teachers many a times. Okay, so at the age of 15, Einstein was so uncomfortable in the school. Though he was good in studies and scored good marks, the headmaster and teachers did not have a good opinion about him. They called his father and gave their comments about him, saying that he would not be successful in his life. And therefore, he felt very suffocated, very uncomfortable in the school, and therefore, he left that school forever. The previous year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. After prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German speaking Switzerland, in a city which was more liberal than Munich. Here liberal means willing to understand and respect others' opinions. Okay. In Munich, he felt very uncomfortable, isn't it? Though he was very good in studies and was working hard, but he found that school very uncomfortable. And now that is why he shifted to this particular school in Switzerland, and he found this school far better than the one in Munich. Okay. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics, and after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. But science was not the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with the walrus moustache. Walrus here means a shape of moustache. You know, you have seen many of the youngsters these days have different styles of moustache, and even they have different hairstyles, isn't it? You people also go to the parlor and get your hair cut in different styles. So, if you can look at the picture of young Einstein, he had a walrus moustache, okay? A particular shape of the moustache. So, he was very good in mathematics and he was also interested in physics, and after finishing his school, he decided to go to a university in Zurich. And it was not that only he was interested in science, but he also had a special interest in a fellow student, Mileva Marek, whom he found to be a clever creature. This young Serb had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degree. Okay. Here ally means a friend or an associate. Here you can see the picture of this particular friend of Einstein, Mileva Marek, okay, who was a young Serb. She had come from Serbia to Switzerland, you know, to study in the University of Zurich. because it was one of the few in Europe which allowed women also to attend. Children, let me tell you here that in some countries in the past, women were not allowed to acquire education. They were not allowed to go to school, they were not allowed to go to universities, or once they finish school, they were not given admission in the universities. So, that discrimination was there in the past in some of the countries. So, Mileva Maric had come to Switzerland because in Zurich that university was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. So, she had come there, and Einstein found Mileva Maric very clever. So, Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines. Here Philistines means to talk about people who are not interested in art, music or literature. Ally means a friend or an associate. So, those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. The couple fell in love. Letters survive in which they put their affection into words, mixing science with tenderness. Wrote Einstein, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion." To be at odds means to be in the opposition of someone, to be against someone. So, when Einstein became familiar with this particular girl, he found her a good friend, okay? And those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds, okay? He was not in good terms with many peoples regarding the opinion of people there about education. Okay? So, he was against many of them and many of them were against him for his opinion on education and the behavior towards a particular gender. Okay? Now, these two friends fell in love with each other, they liked each other and they wrote letters to each other, and a mixture of science and tenderness. And what was Einstein's opinion? He said he would be happy and proud if they both worked together on the theory of relativity and they both could come to a victorious conclusion if they worked together. In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. So, he worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons and finally secured a job in 1902 as a technical expert in the patent office in Bhat. While he was supposed to be assessing other people's inventions, Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. He is said to have jokingly called his drawer at work the Bureau of Physics. Okay. So, in 1900, when Albert Einstein was 21 years old, he became a university graduate and he was unemployed, he did not have any job. So, he worked as a teaching assistant, he gave private lessons, private coaching, tuitions, and finally he got a job in 1902 as a technical expert in the patent office. Patent here means a document which gives the rights of an invention to an inventor. You know, that particular invention belongs to a particular person who had invented that. So, he worked as a technical expert. So, what was his job? His job was to assess other people's inventions. But what did he do most of the time there? He was actually developing his own ideas very secretly. and he also called his office as a Bureau of Theoretical Physics. Okay. So, he secretly was coming out with his own creative ideas and also thinking a lot about his future achievements. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. Here absolute means measured in itself, not in relation to anything else. So, in 1905 he published papers on the theory of relativity, and according to which time and distance are not absolute. They are not measured in itself, not in relation to anything else. So, indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks. Two accurate clocks will not show the same time even if they come together again after a journey if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. From this followed the world's most famous formula which describes the relationship between mass and energy. E is equal to mc square. In this mathematical equation, E stands for energy, m for mass and c for the speed of the light in a vacuum, about 300,000 kilometers per second. Here vacuum means where there is no air, and the speed of light in vacuum is almost 300,000 kilometers per second. So, children, we will stop the lesson here and continue the remaining part in the next class. Today we have read from page number 46 to 48. So, I would request you to read these 3 pages in detail and also the before you read part, and I would request you to note down all the important events that had happened in Einstein's life in a chronological order, whatever we have read till now. Okay? Like right from his birth, then what challenges he faced, and then what were the opinion of his playmates, his mother and his headmaster and teachers about him, okay? And then his performance in school and what were the subjects he was good in, then his meeting with Mileva Maric, okay, from Serb, and how they became friends, and then about Einstein's theory of relativity. Before that, his job as technical assistant and about his office. Okay. So, you need to jot down whatever you have learnt. Children, it is very important for you to read with understanding. Whenever you read, you need to like maybe give a particular topic or heading to each paragraph. What does the paragraph talk about? So, once you do that, it becomes easy for you to jot down the points in a chronological order, that what happened first and then what happened and then what happened. Okay. So, start right from his birth, about his challenges, about his school, and then about his discovery. Okay. So, write down the points in your notebook, which is going to help you to remember the lesson. Once you jot down the points, once you make notes, it is going to help you. So, children, please read from page number 46 to 48 very carefully and come prepared once we meet in the next class and continue with the remaining part of the lesson. So, happy reading, stay home, stay safe.